Sagittarius. Welcome to Pandora Astrology's monthly horoscope for July of 2022. We are the astrologers of Pandora Astrology. I'm Jamie Kale Miller. I'm in Berkeley, California.
I'm Julia Mijas in San Francisco.
Well, Sag, this month's horoscope covers multiple themes. Any and all of your questions that might come up for you after watching this horoscope can be answered in a natal and transit reading. And you'll find a link for that in the YouTube description below. Well, let's jump in and talk about a couple of asteroid goddesses that are near and dear to my heart, most particularly Ceres and Juno. Ceres is, where is she? Here she is, traveling along through the sign of Cancer. And Ceres is about finances, about physical self-care and self-care routines. She's very much a player in terms of our health. And she's going to have a wonderful marker going on this month that I like to call Financial Epiphany Day. And that happens when the Sun and Ceres come into a conjunction. So this is going to happen on July 23rd. You can see the Sun is approaching Ceres. And right there, they come into a conjunction. And this happens right actually at the end of the sign Cancer that she's traveling through. And when Ceres and the Sun conjunct, I do call this Financial Epiphany Day. It's a really great time for getting clarity and clarity of action on your finances. So it's a really good time. It's really the beginning and the ending of the Ceres grand cycle. And, it's like the opposite of Ceres retrograde. During Ceres retrograde, you might be struggling with your finances, but when Ceres is direct, fast, and connects with the Sun, it's like your finances can be illuminated and you can make plans, you can arrange your budget, you can, begin a whole new set of financial behaviors that can benefit you in the future. So that happens on Financial Epiphany Day, which actually, I'm wrong, it's July 21st. It happens right here. But interestingly, shortly after that, Ceres leaves Cancer and moves on into Leo. And I want to almost warn you about Ceres in Leo, because Ceres in Leo can be spendy. And having made your, brand new shiny budget, when Ceres then passes into Leo, you might feel like, oh, I've made my budget. I could go ahead and spend a whole bunch of money right now on like luxury items, things that are going to make me look really good, things that are going to benefit my brand. And I think it's really important to be cautious about that. Although I do want to say that when Ceres moves into Leo, for you, Sagittarius, it's going to land in the 9th house, which is actually a great place for Ceres to be. It's her favorite house to be in. It's the house of growth and expansion. It's the Sagittarian house. Ceres loves to be here. And this is actually a really great house for you to rejigger your beliefs about money and to expand, I want to say, like your beliefs to encompass how you might live into more abundance in the future. So this is a really great transit for you, and it'll last about 2 months. After Ceres moves into Leo, she'll be there for about a couple of months. And it's a really good time for you specifically to be expanding your abundance consciousness. I just have to say it in that new agey way. What can I say? So a lovely transit for you, Sag. Then the next thing I want to talk about is Juno, which is traveling along right here through the sign of Pisces in your 4th house. And this month, she is going to begin a relationship retrospection period on July 24th. So you can see that she doesn't have a little retrograde symbol right here, but right here she does. So there is where Juno goes retrograde on the 24th, 25th. And so this is entering into several months worth of intensive relationship retrospection. Julie and I have made a video about this where you can find out more, and you absolutely should. In that video, you'll find out a lot more about what Juno means when it's retrograde, when it means when it's in Pisces. and what to do about that. But right now, what I want to tell you is how to handle this in your fourth house. And the fourth house being home, family, domestic life, heritage, and roots. Juno in this house doing her relationship retrospection means that you're going to be asking yourself some really deep questions and really feeling into what is the soul connection that you have with the family members that you live with, and how can you better and deepen that soul connection. And how do you feel like the partnerships in your household are working? Could they work better? And how can you get a deeper sense of the meaning behind and underneath these relationships in your home life? So Julia, I'm going to throw the ball over to you because I think that you've got some news about Mars, Mercury, and Venus for the Sages of the world.
Oh, yes, indeed, I do, Sagittarius. Let's begin with Mars. Mars, out of all of those planets, it tends to be sometimes the more challenging one because Mars is the planet of action and activity, though Mars does have is associated with conflict too. So Mars this month begins in your fifth house. It spent all of last month in your fifth house, and we really covered that in depth in our last month's video. So if you need a refresher there, you could totally check that out. But for the first few days of July, Mars is still in your fifth house, and this is the super fun house. It represents creativity, it represents games, it represents your children. So with Mars here, maybe recently you've been dealing with some frustrations and conflict with your children, if you happen to have any, whether they're a toddler or a teenager. There's usually some way they can annoy you and get on your nerves. And Mars in the fifth can sometimes not be the best time for having a winning streak either, since this is the house of gambling and games. That might be very frustrating too. But then after July 4th or on July 4th, Mars enters your sixth house, where it's going to be for the rest of the month. And the sixth house is a work house. It represents your job. It's also a health house, and it's also a house of routine. So Mars in the sixth house can be bringing some of its feistiness into your workplace. Again, that might be not seeing eye to eye with your coworkers, being a little frustrated with your clients or customers. And since the sixth is also a health house, sometimes Mars in this house can kind of bring up some chronic conditions. So, if you deal with difficult periods or migraines or inflammation, Mars in the sixth can kind of bring that stuff up a little bit. However, since the sixth house is a health house and also a house of routine, Mars in the sixth is a wonderful time for getting started on a new physical routine. And maybe one that can help support your health in some way too. So there's definitely a constructive side in there. Now Mercury, a little less difficult than Mars. It's the planet of communication and mentation. Wherever we have Mercury is where we expend a lot of our mental energy, where we're really thinking about a lot of things. And Mercury starts the month in your seventh house just for the first few days, like Mars. And Mercury in the seventh being a house of one-to-one relationships, is an excellent time for, doing your best thinking with somebody else you can bounce off your ideas. And also the seventh house has a lot to do with contractors, so the people you hire for advice. So it might be a time you're thinking, maybe I should call up a lawyer or a doctor about something. But pretty early on, Mercury in the month on July 4th is going to go into your eighth house. And this house is the house of transformation, which also can involve mortality too. Because that is the ultimate transformation we all face. The eighth house is also a house of research, of mystery, of investigation. So Mercury in the eighth house can be a time where people can be a little bit preoccupied with their own mortality. Maybe they're thinking about it a little bit more than usual. Mercury in the eighth house can also be a time of increased communication over money, having those important conversations with the people we're close to about very serious financial things. And then on July 16th, that's a very important day to keep track of, because that's when Mercury will be exactly conjoined the sun. And we call that Greater Epiphany Day. It's a time where we can have some revelations and insights. And this again is all happening in that eighth house. So around July 16th, you might get some aha moments. You might get some clarification about eighth house matters. Maybe you're thinking to yourself, I just had a kid. Maybe I need to write a will. ill. I'm not going to live forever. I have to start thinking ahead of this kind of stuff. Or maybe you have some sort of insights about a loan or a mortgage you might want to get involved with too, because that's all ruled by the 8th house. And finally, I have a few nice things to say about Venus, a very nice planet. Everybody loves her. She's the planet of love. She's the planet of beauty. And wherever she is, we tend to find a little more luck and pleasure. So Venus starts the month in your 7th house, one of her favorite places to be. This house rules your relationship, Sagittarius. So if you do have a partner, the first 17 days of the month when Venus is in your 7th, you might find that you guys have a lot more harmony together, that you're enjoying each other a lot more. This would be a very good time if you guys have had some rocky stuff recently to really smooth things over, because Venus brings diplomacy wherever she goes. And also because Mercury was in the 7th house for the first few days of the month too. First 4 days, good time to hire a consultant as well, with both Mercury and Venus in there. Then on July 17th, Venus is going to shift into the 8th house, again, that house of transformation, that house of finance. So then your relationship might get a little bit heavier, but in a more intimate way. Venus is bringing a little transformation to your relationship. Maybe you and your partner pool resources together in a way which involves more trust, which involves, a deeper loyalty. Venus in the 8th house can also find a little fun and pleasure with taboo things, because the 8th house can also be very taboo related. Maybe a little bit more sexually active too with Venus in the 8th. And you might also get a little bit of luck, a little bit of, harmony in your communications and relationships that are financially based. So that could be something like your partner making a little more money and sharing it with you, or maybe you apply for a loan and it comes through too with Venus in the 8th.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm going to talk about the moons beginning on July 13th with the full moon here in Capricorn, which lands in your 2nd house, a realm of money and finances, also a realm of things that belong to you, as opposed to the 8th house, which is the things that you share with others, particularly a spouse or maybe a business partner. So having the full moon, the sun here in the 8th, the moon here in the 2nd, having this full moon cover what might be called the axis of finance, brings those money themes up really strongly. This particular moon we're calling it healing with lots of help, because Chiron squares the moon and sun. Chiron being the wounded healer and being in Aries might poke at some old wounding around money, particularly in your relationships where monies are shared. So it wouldn't be surprising if some conflict, some duality, some pressure comes up in your relationships with people that you share money with this month, particularly under this full moon, whether that's a business partner or whether that's a spouse. And Chiron in Aries may sort of poke at the wounding that's there, but also open up avenues for healing. And this particular moon does have a lot of help and support towards that healing, most particularly from Juno, Neptune, and Uranus. You can find out more about it in the video that we made about it in our July news playlist on our YouTube channel, Pandora Astrology. Now, the other moon, well, before I get to the other moon, though, I want to talk about the seasonal change, because the sun then leaves Cancer right here and moves into Leo with Ceres, as I mentioned before. So we have a seasonal change from Cancer to Leo. Leo, of course, is, the dog days of August. It's a time of heat in nature, and that's the heat of the sun. This is a time of great creativity and expansion. It's a time of vacations and play. I mean, I think in Europe, it's pretty much no use trying to go to anywhere in Europe during August, because everybody is on vacation. as they should be,
Hmm.
deserving it quite a bit. And so August is really a time for fun, and we're moving into that season as the sun proceeds along in Leo, and it lights up your ninth house. So wherever the sun goes, it shines the light of attention, and it's really good to bring your attention to this arena where the sun is. And the ninth house is a house of travel and growth. It's a house of the higher mind, education, higher learning. And so as the sun enters into this house, it's a really good time to take a trip or plan a trip. And that, basically putting your attention on adventure and how you can have more adventure is a really great use of this transit. So as the sun moves along, we come to the new moon in Leo right here at the end of July, and it's precise on the 28th. And new moons, of course, are great times for planting seeds. They're times of new beginnings. And this one being in Leo, of course, those seeds should be seeds of creativity. And we're calling this moon Seeds of Creativity Can Expand Endlessly. And that's because not only do we have the sun and the moon together here in very creative, expressive, and playful Leo, but together they form a lovely trine over here to Jupiter, which brings that quality of expansion and just makes things all that much more fun, and brings a lot of enthusiasm too. And Jupiter is traveling along through the fifth house, while the sun and moon are traveling along through the ninth house, which is particularly interesting because the fifth house correlates with Leo and the ninth house correlates with Jupiter. So there's just a lot of repeat themes here, suggesting that you should absolutely be traveling and making plans to travel, and that plans to travel that you make under this new moon might be seeds well planted, that can really bear fruit in the future in terms of those actual trips going forward. Well, that is the stuff that we have for you today. Hope you enjoyed it. You can always find your horoscope on our website, pandoraastrology.com, in the horoscope tab. And if anything in this horoscope makes you want a reading, you can check out the readings tab on our website. And we also offer classes. Until next time, we'll see you around the cosmos. Bye.
Bye-bye.